everyone, my name is Monique.
And I'm Naveen from Before You Play.
And today we are going to be showing you around Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig, as well as its new expansion, which is the Secrets and Soirees.
Yes, this is a dual design game by Ben Rosset and Matthew O'Malley, and it's a mashup or a smash up of two different companies coming together to publish it, Stonemaier Games and Bezier Games, and they both made respective games, Between Two Cities, and then Castles of Mad King Ludwig.
Yes.
Put them together and you have Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig.
And so if you've played this game before and you're only interested in hearing about the expansion, we will include timestamps down below. But if you've never heard anything about this game before, then come along because we're going to show you around it.
And before we get started, if you're interested in seeing more videos like this, please consider subscribing.
And with that, we are ready to get started. So if you'd please direct your attention to this end of the table, this is not set up
No,
for
we're
a
not
game
set up. Right.
of Between Two Castles.
Right.
This is actually what the game comes with. So
The
we kind of
base game.
Yeah, what the base game comes with. We just kind of wanted to start off by showing you these trays, because these trays are a big part of the game. They hold all of the different tiles that you're going to be using in order to build the different castles in between players. So you have the main tray that is just a big mixture of all the different types of rooms that you'll see. In the middle here, we have all the different throne rooms because this is a game that does play up to 7 players.
Yes.
And so when you set up the game, the way that it works is in between each player, you're going to put one of these throne rooms just like this. And so say we were playing with a third, then they would go over there.
Yep.
Actually, it would be more like this because these throne rooms need to be directly in between each player.
Right, so I would be sitting here, Monique here, and a third player here.
Now the game is played over 2 rounds, and at the start of each round, each player is going to be given a hand of 9 tiles. And it doesn't matter what they are, these are all randomized tiles. And from this stack, each player is going to select 2 of them secretly. One tile is going to be placed into the castle on your left, and the other tile will be placed in your castle to your right.
Yep.
And so the whole premise of this game is you're going to be building up both castles. So each player is going to be sharing a castle each. Yes. And at the end of the game, they're going to score in certain ways depending on the different room types that you place. The lower scoring castle between the 2 of them is your actual score.
Right.
And amongst everyone's scores, whoever has the highest score is the winner.
Right, so the overall goal of the game is to participate and communicate with your teammate, technically, to your left and to your right, and try to level up both your castles to a point where they're scoring very highly.
Yes, you don't want one to be a very, very high scoring castle because you will not do well.
Yeah, you're not going to score it, yeah.
And that is the Between Two Cities aspect of this game. Where Castles of Mad King Ludwig comes into play is in these different room types. Now the general rule for placing these tiles is your throne room is on ground level.
Yep.
And so some tiles you're allowed to place on ground level and above it. And some rooms, like the downstairs rooms, you're only allowed to build underground. And so these ones must go below ground level, just like that. In addition, each tile follows the same kind of anatomy. At the very top left-hand corner, it tells you the type of room it is, as well as the color. And at the very bottom here, it tells you how it scores. Some rooms score points depending on which type of rooms are connected to them. Others score points just for having specific room types anywhere in your castle. And sleeping rooms score you points for having all 6 different types of rooms in your castle. In addition to the different ways that these room types score, we also get bonuses depending on how many of them you have in your castle. Upon placing the 3rd room of a specific type, you get a bonus that is specific to that room. And we're not going to go over all of them. No. Just know that these bonuses include drawing more tiles and placing additional one. Placing these special tiles, which come in this yellow tray, and they also score differently. Like the fountain just gets you straight 5 points. Doesn't depend on any kind of room type in your castle. And these 3 different types of specialty rooms can also be placed when somebody places 5 of the same room type in a castle. It seems like a lot of rooms, but again, you are sharing this responsibility between you and your partner to the left or right.
Yeah, you will always be putting one of your tiles in the left and one in the right, and then the person on your left will also be doing that. Yes. So you'll always be adding at least 2 tiles to one castle at a time.
So you can discuss it.
Right.
And so you may want to kind of figure out the order of who discusses what.
Yeah.
But that's part of the heart of the game, that figuring out where to place which tiles. And that is pretty much everything for the base game. Like I said, you play it over 2 rounds, and so in the second round, you rotate your tiles counterclockwise because it is still a drafting game. Right. And then at the end of that second round, whoever has the most points in their lower scoring castle wins.
Yes, that's exactly it.
And as for the Secrets and Soirees expansion, we have a 3rd tray. This time it's purple, because this expansion does introduce additional tiles.
Yep.
The first thing that this expansion includes is an 8th throne room. So now you can play up to 8 players. So there's also an 8th castle token there. We also have just additional room tiles. So there are 3 more of each type of room that we discussed earlier.
Yeah, these are the regular room tiles from the base game.
Yes, so now you just have more stuff. But the main point of the expansion, we think, is there are 3 new types of tiles that you're going to see. The first type of tiles are these ballroom tiles, and these score depending on the castles that your opponents are building. And so this ballroom here is going to get you 1 point per activity room, which is also a new type of room, that are in your left and right castles. Speaking of activity rooms, those are also a new type of room, and these are different because they score depending on rooms that are orthogonally adjacent. But they also have a kind of like a limiting condition.
Yes.
Just like in Castles of Mad King Ludwig, if you're familiar with that game, each tile has a specific type of room type it does not want to have in the surrounding 8 tiles. And if that room type is present, then it only scores 1 point.
Exactly.
And the last type of room tile are these secret tiles. And these are a little bit more complicated than the other ones that we've discussed. They each have an arrow at the very bottom of the tile that points to a specific direction. And it basically copies the ability of whatever tile is in that direction.
Directly next to it.
Yeah, so think of these secret rooms as like a Control-C on a computer.
Yeah.
You're just copying tiles, but so that can get kind of sticky, but they can also be kind of powerful when you're playing with your opponent's options, right?
Yep.
And seeing as that can get kind of confusing, the game also comes with these chits that you can use to mark the specific room types on those secret rooms. The expansion also comes with a new variant that you can play with, where instead of building in between, you're building your own castle.
You're building your own, yep.
And so if you're playing a 2-player game, that might be the way that you might want to go, I suppose. We haven't actually tried that variant yet, but it does exist. Now, this is a game that we've played at 2, 3, and at like 7.
At 7, at the max,
at the max. Honestly, we are not the biggest fan of this game at lower player counts.
Right.
I can't say that we recommend it if that's the only player count that you would play it as. This is a game for us that shines at those like 7, maybe 8, because you have a lot of people around the table and it's just kind of like a group activity where you're doing something fun and quick.
Yep.
And it's a nice little like a icebreaker experience, I suppose.
I will say it does play relatively quick for a game of its complexity. Shuffling the tiles is one of the most tedious parts of the game because there are so many and you want to have a nice random assortment of all the different tiles. But what is nice is once you kind of know this expansion, you can just seamlessly integrate it. It's actually in the rule book that just basically shuffle them all together and just play with all of them.
Yeah, that's true. And so those are kind of our thoughts on the base game. It's a fairly straightforward, fairly simple game. It's a lot more between 2 cities than it is Castles of Mad King Ludwig, because if you've played Castles of Mad King Ludwig before, that's an auction game, and the room types really combo around each other. And so there's a little bit of that in this game, but in the base game, I feel like the decisions are a lot more straightforward. You're going to choose 2 tiles and then you kind of go to your partner and you're both like, I'll put it there if you put it there, you know?
So whenever we do play with a large group of people, we'll say, okay, you talk to the person to your left first and then the person to your right and then vice versa on the next round. That way it's just kind of a smoother game flow, because if not, then you're kind of just sitting around just waiting. Especially in a 3-player game, that happens a lot. 2 people will be conversing and you're just kind of like sitting waiting.
Part of the reason why we don't recommend it at 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because there's that little like looking up at the sky.
Yeah.
And so now, speaking of the expansion, that is kind of what I like about the new expansion. The fact that it does introduce a little bit more of the Castles of Mad King Ludwig theme into it. The activity rooms specifically that give you points depending on the rooms around it, but also if you have a specific room that's around it that it doesn't like, then it's only 1 point.
Negates the whole thing.
That felt like more Castles of Mad King Ludwig for me. And all in all, I feel like this expansion is just it just adds a lot more opportunity for you to create more interesting combos as well as more player interaction. And so if you are a fan of the base game, the expansion is kind of a no-brainer.
Kind of, yeah. And the thing is that's nice is this also fits in the base box, so it's a perfect seamless kind of integration. And I think that was it seems like that was the whole point of it, especially in the rulebook, the way they discuss that you just kind of mix everything together and then go ahead and get started and play.
If you're not a fan of the base game, I don't necessarily know that this will make you like it. It might make you like it more, but it really is just much of the same, just like most expansions are, except it does add more player interaction.
Yeah, I do think that the inclusion of an 8th player, surprisingly, you would think like, 8 players, do I really need that? Sometimes when we go to a meetup or something like that, there will be 2 groups of 4 that you can perfectly come together and play a full 8.
Right. That's a good point, especially if you go to meetups now that like gaming groups are starting to form again.
Yeah.
You know, you always have that person who comes in a little bit later than everybody. And this is a kind of a nice game that you can just bring them in, teach them really fast, and then start playing the game.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of perfect for those moments. And so that is the Between Two Castles of Adkin Ludwig with the new Secrets and Soirees expansion.
This game is currently on pre-order through the Stonemaier Games website. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you do have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. We'll try to get back to you as soon as we can. And again, if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, please consider subscribing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.